These trees are some of the last of their kind in Scotland. All we have left now are these isolated patches, remnants of a lush montane habitat that would have blanketed the hills across Scotland, and which would have supported a rich diversity of species. This habitat is called Mountain Birch woodland. But today, it's pretty much all gone. There are so few mountain birch left that this habitat is classified as functionally extinct. This means that without intervention, it would completely disappear from Scotland. This is a habitat that is very much on its last legs, and this is why we're casting out a lifeline and embarking on a bold project to help bring back this lost habitat of Scotland's mountains. So in typical Scottish fashion, it's now raining, and I think every time I've been to Scotland it hasn't, so we're in for a treat, aren't we guys?
Yeah, this is the full package.
Full package. Yeah. This is Gus from Reforesting Scotland, and he's our partner on this project. He's kind of a mad botanist in the best possible way, spending his free time looking at every plant he can get his hands on and verifying old records of rare species by venturing deep into the Scottish hills, often alone for the better part of a day. This passion for Scotland's flora has led him to lay the foundations for this Mountain Birch Project, and I couldn't think of anyone more suited to finding the now dwindling populations of mountain birch. There's less than 100 above 600 metres and only around 40 above 650 metres. So I'm really excited to have him as our guide for the day, as we embark on a quest to try and locate and hopefully collect seed from some isolated mountain birch, which will later be taken to a nursery where we'll grow these special trees. And along with us came Kulan, who was significantly better than us at dealing with the weather conditions and traversing the landscape. We're beginning our rainy walk up to see some mountain birch. The plan is to find this pretty scarce tree now, the scarce habitat. It's functionally extinct, right?
Functionally extinct. We really have none of this left in Scotland.
I have none of it left. Well, this is
proper woodlands left anyway. There's trees, but no proper woodland.
Like the name suggests, mountain birch are birch trees found on the mountain. That's really the main way it's classified. For the project, any birch trees above 600 metres are considered to be mountain birch, as these are trees that would have evolved genetics which can withstand the harsh conditions of growing on the hill. They look different to birch that grows at lower altitudes. Instead of being straight, single-stemmed, they're often multi-stemmed and sprawling over the mountainside. They're trees with real character, and sourcing seed from these trees is integral to our project, but it's not always an easy task. We continued our journey to the birch, making our way through what was quite a lush lower river valley. We're just leaving that nice little patch of trees where we were keeping a bit dry, and now we're coming out on the hill a bit. Are there many trees up here, Gus?
There are some trees. There's going to be more in the future. We've got loads of regeneration, as you can see. The woodland's starting to spread out as land management practices get better for woodland regeneration, basically.
Here it was nice to see the woodland beginning to recover, but why has Scotland lost so much of its woodland, especially its montane species? Why are so many of the hills completely devoid of trees? Well, it's due to a long history of human-induced pressure. Overall, it's pressure from land use change. Over time, natural habitats like peatlands and woodlands have been altered and cleared for agriculture, forestry, and the other ways humans have used the land. Among all this change, Scotland has seen a sharp rise of its herbivores and the demise of their natural predators. As demand for livestock increased, this saw an ever-growing number of sheep and cattle upon the land. Species like the bear, wolf and lynx were seen as threats to this way of life and were completely eradicated. Hunted to extinction both for this reason and also for sport. Scotland has a long history of hunting and it's still prevalent today. These two factors have been the drivers behind the soaring wild deer populations. Without natural predators to regulate their numbers, and with shooting estates seeking to maintain higher numbers of deer on the land, this has seen unprecedented pressure on Scotland's natural landscapes through overgrazing. And when you add centuries of sheep grazing too, you can begin to understand how young trees simply haven't had a chance to naturally regenerate. We'll explain in just a minute how our project plans to mitigate these threats. Gus has just shown me a species here known as blaeberry, right?
Yeah, so what we have here is quite light green. It's all going autumnal at the moment, which is lovely, but this light green plant here is blaeberry, which is what we call it in Scotland. Elsewhere they call it bilberry. And this one here, which has got much bluer green, is northern blaeberry, which is a different species. And in Norway, under their mountain woodlands basically, this is a really common part of the understory under these woodlands. Whereas in Scotland, people think of it as quite rare because they don't see it very often because it's up much higher and it's, you know, it's not as widespread. But that's probably because we haven't got our mountain woodlands.
Southern Norway really is the most comparable place to see what Scotland's hills could look like if they had this woodland habitat. We've become so used to seeing so much of Scotland just barren and empty that I think we've forgotten the land's true potential, that there really could and perhaps should be rich woodlands throughout. It's these woodlands that form the pillars for the rest of the ecosystem, stabilising and enriching the soils beneath and creating cover for other life forms to flourish, providing food for many different animals, and then, when all of this is in place, natural predators can return. It's a vibrant, dynamic system that simply doesn't function without trees at the foundation. So far in Scotland, mountain birch restoration really hasn't been taken that seriously. It's been yourself, Gus, who's really taken it on?
Yeah, I think so. There are some people have ideas of doing it, but yeah, not many people are actually going out and really prioritising it.
Exactly, and like the process so far starts off with a desk study, right? You sit at the computer, you look at maps, looking at satellite imagery, looking for remnant trees, and then it's this, going out, trying to find it.
Any weather, who cares? You got to get up there and see those birches.
Exactly.
And hopefully get some seed. We've had a few times where I've gone up and it's a long walk in, weather like this, and you get there and none of the trees have seed. So fingers crossed we'll get some today.
Alright, fingers crossed. For this project, we've set aside around £25,000 to fund Gus's work. This covers everything from desk studies, transport, and of course, field work. As usual, the money comes from our Mossy Earth members that contribute to our projects on a monthly basis. So if you like our projects, remember that they are only possible due to this direct support. And to learn all about it, you can head over to mossy.earth to learn more. Look at that, look at you go! I'm just stumbling around on here like a newborn deer, and Kulan is just like, look at you go. Gus is pretty good too. You're pretty quick, Gus. Practice. We made it through, and as we continued, the mountains started to feel empty. There really weren't any trees where we were now, and I was beginning to wonder if we'd ever find the mountain birch. But soon enough, as we appeared over the brow of the hill, we found them.
Well, we've got at least one catkin. The catkin can hold hundreds of seeds, so
it's worth getting.
Yeah, here we go.
Sketchy again.
Just a little one there.
And once we got our eyes in, we started to see quite a few more, which Gus started to collect and put into a bag.
Just recording the location of the birch so that we can understand the viability of the seed from each tree, if we know which tree each seedling ends up coming from. So get the location, the altitude here we're at, saying about 631 metres, so it's pretty good for Scotland anyway. I think there's probably fewer than 100 seed producing birches over 600 metres in Scotland, and you know, ideally we'd be looking at 650 metres plus, but I mean, yeah, you know, you're talking like 40 or 50 trees then. Really very few, so getting these, you know, with their genetics is so important for restoring the habitat and making it, you know, restoring the functionality of everything that, you know, goes with these trees, from the, you know, the mosses and the lichens that grow on the trees themselves to the plants that grow in the soil created by the leaf litter. So
seeing these birch trees standing lonely on the side of the hill gave me mixed emotions. It was saddening to think that there's so little of this habitat left in Scotland, but I'm also hopeful and thankful that this habitat has just about held on, and that we're able to do the work to try and bring it back. Following Gus through the hills, with him stopping to show me rare plants I'd otherwise miss or not know about, made me think, hey, Gus might actually be able to make a brilliant YouTube channel of his botanical adventures. I mean, how many people with his passion and his knowledge are there? He's really one of the only guys who could make such a channel. Drop a comment down below, let's give Gus some encouragement to get his channel going. This is of course our idea and not Gus's. Having successfully collected seed on our trip, which was added to the existing seed that had already been collected by Gus, I was instructed with the very important job of driving it south and delivering it to the nursery at Elsoms. It's been delivered in one piece.
Checking it.
Yeah.
It's definitely birch.
This is Craig, and he manages all of the work at Elsoms Trees. Here they focus on producing a huge variety of trees with an emphasis on sourcing seeds locally so that trees with the right genetics are being planted in the right place, which is of course very fitting for our Mountain Birch project. Craig showed me the initial process that our seed will go through using another batch of birch seeds collected from another area. The process began by sieving through the material, separating the seed from any branches or leaves. The first step was done by hand, but there's machines too, which are used to separate the seeds further and create the plugs, putting individual seeds into the growing cells, which will then be ready to grow on, out in the greenhouses and then outside. Our mountain birch won't be ready for planting until next year, but in the meantime we will be finding the best planting locations. You see, it's important that we identify areas with low deer densities, as this will be the biggest threat to our trees. We'll also be trying to plant in sheltered locations to give the trees a better chance to establish and then produce seed. Some planting areas may need deer fencing initially to really ensure their survival. So now the seed's here, we just need to wait for the trees to be grown on, to become strong enough to go back out into the mountains. It's really exciting. This is such a cool nursery here, just to have all of these native trees which have been locally sourced. Yeah, it's a really cool project, and if it's one that you think is worth supporting, then you can become a member. Check out mossy.earth to do that. But if you want to learn more about us, please watch some more of our videos. Yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.